Greetings, one and all, and may your angels be looking down upon you. And the reason I'm bringing angels up is because I was in a discussion with someone recently who reads the Gurdjieff work, or so I thought, started poo-pooing me for bringing up the idea of angels and archangels. We were discussing what the whole point of reaching your higher self was and what our higher centres are. And at one point I brought up in the conversation maybe it is a guardian angel or a higher angel that's what we would be attaining towards becoming an angel. And he laughed at me and said that Gurdjieff never talks about angels, and I had to correct him immediately. Gurdjieff talks a lot about angels. In his book, All and Everything, there are lots of angels and archangels and cherubs and seraphims, which are all the different ranks of the angels. And that's when I realised that this guy had never read Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson. I meet a lot of people who are in the Gurdjieff work who've never read All and Everything, which does quite surprise me. So this shows for him, even though I did go and research again who all the different angels and archangels are in Beelzebub's Tales, because they all help with the maintaining of the whole of the universe. They've been sent by his endlessness to continue keeping the universe running. And not heard back from him yet, but maybe he will be in touch soon. Or maybe he's off reading them very bits in Beelzebub's Tales. So there's, like I say, lots of angels and archangels and cherubs and seraphim and such like in Beelzebub's Tales. In the medieval days, well, it might have been in the Dark Ages, a lot of the theologians of Christianity were putting together all the different ideas and putting into categories all the different angels and archangels and such like, going up to the thrones and dominions. So from his endlessness there would be certain higher angels, which are normally known as thrones and dominions. They would be doing direct work with the divine, and then it comes down in a order of angels, going into the cherubs and the seraphims. And normally the cherubs and seraphims are dealing with wisdom and love, and then continuing down until we come to the archangels and the angels. And we are closest to the angels, but the cherubim, seraphim, and the thrones and the dominions are further away from us. They're higher to connect with, and even harder to connect with. It's to the angels that we are closest. And I believe in evolution. If this earth is going to become a sun, us humans would also be evolving to the next stage, hopefully into becoming angels. But Gurdjieff does discuss all these various different angels and archangels in his book. For example, he talks about the Archangel Gabriel quite often. He talks about the commission. I think it's the Most High Commission. Let me just find my book here. Yes, indeed. The Most High Commission, consisting of angels and archangels, specialists in the work of world creation and world maintenance. So the angels are helping the development, the continuing evolvement of the whole universe. What also got a conversation going with somebody else, actually. We were talking about the stories of the Watchers in the Old Testament. The Watchers were angels who were sent down to the Garden of Eden to watch over the first humans. And you've probably heard this story of these Watchers began to lust after the women, the human women, and had relations with them. And from them, the Nephilim were born, the giants, that then there's all kinds of stories about them. There's only a few lines in the Old Testament itself. I actually wrote a book about this called The Watchers, available at Amazon at the moment. The publishers I had it with went bust many years ago, so I've had to self-publish it now on Amazon. And it's in ebook form and paperback form. But I suppose from Gurdjieff's point of view, the Watchers should really be ourselves, watching what we're doing and how we're changing. You know, we should be extremely watchful and alert at night, he writes in All and Everything, but he might also mean be extremely watchful and alert when we're becoming automatons and working mechanically. We need to be waking up. But in All and Everything, there are various archangels and angels with roles to play. For example, the Archangel Hariton, he was to help with the workings of the intersystem and interplanetary communication and the construction of all the spaceships. And it's something I had a bit of a talk with Tony Blake with many years ago about the kind of engines they used. And I thought that they were the continuously perpetual motion engines which were made by the Archangel Hariton, which Gurdjieff talks about in his book in the chapters, and I'm trying to remember what chapters they are. They're in the early chapters about the spaceships and how they all worked, which again is very interesting, of Gurdjieff looking at all the different ways of making energy, making ships travel through space. And I was telling you earlier that there was also the Most High Commission consisting of angels and archangels, and they've all got their workings in the world creation and world maintenance. They're all specialists in this work, but they're kept in order under the direction of the most great Archangel Sakaki, who was sent from the Sun Absolute, which is where the divine, his endlessness, lives, was sent from there to the solar system, Ours, which is the solar system our planet is in, to help with the working of this planet and to investigate the first cosmic catastrophe, which when you read All and Everything, you'll realise this first cosmic catastrophe was what was the reason why we ended up having to have the Kunda buffer put into us, so that the angels and the archangels and all the angel engineers and the archangel engineers could repair the problem with the Earth that wasn't quite fitting in with the solar system, because there'd been an error, sadly, by the angels, I believe he's saying. And this Kunda buffer was put on us so that we wasn't aware of the repairs going on, and once the repairs were finished, the Kunda buffer was taken away. But alas, we still lived as if we had the Kunda buffer attached to us and seen everything topsy-turvy. Now, this Kunda buffer was put onto us by the chief common arch chemist physicist angel Luisos, or some say people call it Luisos, but I think it's Luisos. I wish I'd known Gurdjieff so I could hear these words actually being pronounced. But this chief common arch chemist physicist was an angel who was in the operations of, obviously, doing operations, operating in operations. So he was the one that put on and took away, or supervised the putting on and taking away of the Kunda buffer from us, which was put on the end of our coccyx bone at the bottom of our spine. Let me see if I can find where I had that. I had that written down somewhere about that. Right, so this is about the Kunda buffer. The sacred members of this most high commission then reasoned that if the said mechanical instinct in these biped free-brain beings should develop towards the attainment of objective reason, as usually occurs, then it might quite possibly happen that they would prematurely comprehend the real cause of their arising in existence and make a great deal of trouble. In view of this, the Most High Commission then decided, among other things, provisionally to implant into the common presences of the free-brain beings there a special organ with a property such that, first, they should perceive reality topsy-turvy, and secondly, that every repeated impression from outside should crystallize in them data which would engender factors for evoking in them sensations of pleasure and enjoyment, etc., etc. And then later on it talks about concerning the remover of this organ and the problems that came and went with that. But going back to archangels and their various roles, many of these angels, as they performed their tasks, if they were successful, would be promoted to become archangels. And they become worthy of becoming divine individuals. There were some divine individuals that Gurdjieff talks about called the 4-quarter maintainers of the whole universe. A bit like how in, I think it's the book of Revelation, it talks about the 4 archangels. One stands on each corner of the earth, blowing forth the wind and the trumpets, ready for the upcoming apocalypse. But some of these angels and archangels came to visit Beelzebub when he was living on Mars. And I'm just going to read that little bit about that. And it says, following an epheogram from the centre announcing the reappearance of certain most high sacred individuals, a number of archangels, angels, cherubim and seraphim did appear on Mars, escorted by one of the seraphim, his second assistant, his conformity archangel Luiosus, condescended to talk to Beelzebub about the first and second catastrophes and about the welfare of the moon, and requested that he undertake the task of discouraging the practice of sacrificial offerings undesirable for cosmic phenomena of a greater scale. So the angels, archangels and the seraphim were going to Beelzebub, asking him to go and talk to the humans on Earth to stop practicing the sacrificial offerings, which I believe was the blood sacrifices, which was of animals and humans. And we all know that blood sacrifice is really black magic. We should not be doing it. God does not want people's blood. He wants people's love. Now, various of these angels and archangels had roles to play, and one, an arch-cherub, the most great arch-cherub, Peshtovnu. He was an all-quarters maintainer as well, and he receives his essence, as in Beelzebub's essence when he returns from exile, concerning the sins of his youth, and grants his all-gracious promise to give orders that the all-being productions Beelzebub had collected from the various planets be taken to the planet Caritas. Now, Beelzebub had been doing a lot of work during his exile, and people wanted, well, the other beings throughout the universe wanted to learn about Earth. So this is why he had to go before the all-quarters maintainer to, pass on his investigations and his, reports. Gurdjieff also talks about the sacred canticles sung by cherubim, seraphim and angels. They love to sing, the angels, all the different ranks of them. And I think it's again in one of the biblical tales, it talks about how the angels, it might be Isaiah, the angels are surrounding the divine's throne, the divine source's throne, singing, holy, holy, holy. And I think that's just a wonderful thing to do, singing wonderful songs to the divine. Though some people have said that would get boring after a while. I wonder if they take it in turns to sing it. But they would be singing in the glory of the divine and for the glory of the divine and feeling the glory of the divine. It's something that's beyond our own. We just can't imagine it. We can imagine it, I suppose, but we can't understand it fully because we have not felt the presence of being within the divine. And I'm sure that if you was ever before the divine, you would want to sing canticles and songs. But it is an important thing to do. I sadly lost a friend earlier this year, and I was quite saddened that at the service for him by his family, they did not do holy hymns to God to take his soul forward to the next stage. It was quite a humane funeral, actually, which I'm noticing more and more people seem to be signing up for. And I worry about their souls being stuck out there in something because they've not been given the sacred songs, which is kind of like a magical spell to send them forth to the next stage, whether it's to heaven or purgatory or to stand before the divine themselves. But singing songs to the divine is very important, and the angels are full of that. Now I think they sing down to us as well, hoping we'll catch on to the tunes and sing back. I'm a strong believer that the old gods and goddesses, the ones, the lower gods and goddesses, love us to talk to them in in rhyme, in poetry, rather than our mundane, boring, monotonous usual talk. They probably love a bit of rhythm and rhyme to our prayers to them. And the word angel is originally in the Hebrew means messenger. The angels brought messages from the divine to humans, and obviously in the hierarchy, the seraphim would give messages to the lower angels and so forth. It's all a message chain system. And Gurdjieff talks about the arch seraph, Keshtalna. The arch, or the ark, I think. It shouldn't be arch, because we say archangel, so it should be arch seraph. So top seraphim, the arch seraph is Keshtaltana. And he's also known as his self-keepness, the arch seraph Keshtalna, which is quite an interesting title. And he's known as the great observer of the movements of all the concentrations of the megalocosmos. So he's probably watching he is watching all the movements of the great megalocosmos. And if he sees perhaps problems or diversions happening in it, he would then send the next angels below him down to go and repair it. But we can also speak up to the angels, I believe. And of course, for those of you who have read Beelzebub's Tales to the End, you know the important role of the various angels and cherubim, seraphim take in the... I don't want to spoil the end for you if you've not read it, of what happens to Beelzebub. And this could also happen to us if we work hard. But I thought I'd just read this quote, which was quite an important part of what angels and cherubim do. They are helping us all the time. And this is from page 1160 of All and Everything. Just these ordinary free-brain beings, who acquire information about every kind of genuine fact, exclusively only thanks to being part dog duty, are more competent than any of the angels or cherubim with their prepared being, who, though perfected in reason to high gradations, yet as regards practical confrontations may appear to be only such individuals as our always respected Mullah Nasir ad-Din defines. Never will he understand the sufferings of another who has not experienced them himself, though he may have divine reason, and the nature of a genuine devil. Well, I think many of us have the nature of a genuine devil, but we should be working towards finding that angelic nature within us and attaining towards it. And another important saying from Mullah Nasir ad-Din, isn't it all one to the poor flies how they are killed, by a kick of the hooves of horned devils or by a stroke of the beautiful wings of divine angels? We can probably apply that to our own lives. Are you being kicked about by the hooves of the horned devil, or are you being stroked by the beautiful wings of divine angels? Depends on how you're acting. So this little show is just to promote the fact that there are lots of angels and archangels and cherubs and seraphims in all of everything, and it's very important to know them and get to know them and get to know the angelic within yourself as well as that devilish part of you. I'd like to thank you all for listening to me rabbit on. I've said before that YouTube demonetized me. My books are available, and if you'd like to know more about the story of the Nephilim and the Watchers and the first days of paradise, the fall of the angels and the fall of man and women, please grab a copy of my book, The Watchers, by W. Eliot, and still available on Amazon. But thanks again for watching. May you find the angel with you or connect with an angel. And watch out for that naughty little devil that's doing his best to distract you. Peace to one and all.